And welcome back, footy fans, to another episode of Donnie's Disposals. I am your host, Coach Donnie Hess here, back with another AFLW round review. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk about the ladies. The women's footy was fantastic this week. We are through two rounds of footy, and joining me as my co-host, one of my favorite people to talk about because she is a legend in South Australian women's football. That is the coach of the Woodville West Torrens Eagles senior side. That is Coach Narelle Smith. Narelle, great to see you again as always.
Hello, Coach Donny. You well?
I am not doing too bad. I am not doing too bad. My weekend was a little roller coaster with the men's
Uh-huh.
Swans getting a scintillating win, and then unfortunately all the issues with not only Chloe Malloy, but then unfortunately the Swans falling short to the Saints. But you
Mm,
want to know what? It was still a great round of footy. There was still plenty
mm.
to talk about. So let's jump right into it. Thoughts on round two as a whole, because a little bit of everything. We saw some blowouts, we saw some good games, we saw a draw.
Yeah, look, I feel like the Demons beating Geelong in round one was a bit of a shock to me. I think that Melbourne might be heading towards a bit of a rebuild phase. And so I think playing Brisbane in round two and Brisbane obviously wobbly round one, that kind of like even things out. Um, Impressed with Hawthorn. Gee whiz, amazing. And the other game, as you said, the draw. Like the Cats lose in a thriller down at Cardinia Park, and then they come up and I wasn't sure that anyone could get near North Melbourne, or really, the big three for me are always Brisbane, North Adelaide. Um, but yeah, the Cats were Michaela Bowen with that amazing
Mhm.
finalising goal to keep them with a draw. It was just outstanding. And the other game was probably the Crows' dominance over Freo after Freo touched up Essendon in round one. So there was a couple of surprises and yeah, but Hawthorn are impressive. Yeah, which and then we've got Adelaide Hawthorn this week, which is going to be a cracker.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some great games. There's some teams. I know Hawthorne was one of those. I remember listening to Credit to the Girls podcast before the season started, and they go, keep an eye on them. They're going to be one of
Mm,
those. And I remember keeping track of it. I know they touched up the Swans in the preseason game, and usually I don't put a lot into the preseason game, but I kind of had this feeling like that I think they've got something. And they've
mm,
shown it in the first two rounds. They've been quite impressive. I'm like I said, I'm excited to see how they match up against the one of the cream of the crop clubs in Adelaide. I think
mm.
they may be brought down to earth just the littlest bit, but
Yeah,
I still think Hawthorne's going to be in it for sure. That is going to be that could be game of the round this week. I cannot wait for it at all.
yeah, I think that will be game of the round, and because they both have some real speed, and it'll be offense v defense, and we know that Adelaide have a good defense, but Hawthorn haven't had their defense tested yet, so um, it'll be who can get their offensive game going the best, and when they're coming at you, who can defend best. So
Mhm.
it's going to be a ripper.
Yeah, I mean, there's matchups that you just that'll look like mouth-watering. Anne Hatchard
Hmm.
versus Liza West. You have
Hmm.
Ebony Marinoff, potentially Emily Bates as long as she gets back healthy.
Hmm.
It's gonna be fun. I'm super excited on that one. So let's jump into it. We'll go back round two. We start off the game that moved Friday night slash afternoon footy sees the Port Adelaide Power get a 40-point win over the Doggies. And I mean, this is kind of what I expected. I know Port has some young
Mm.
talent. They played better, but I was not expecting only six behinds kicked by the doggies.
Yeah, look, I've seen Port play live, and they're just really starting to get their offensive mojo going, and they've got some young, exciting talent. Obviously, Shanae Goody being one of my favourites.
I
Um,
wonder why.
but it was great to see Molly Brooksby really lifted her work rate and got up amongst the top three possession getters, and Abby Dowrick's just she'll work her way into the season, so they had some stars, and you know um Yeah, the Western Bulldogs, they're going to take a little while, I think. They obviously didn't have a great year last year, and you just kind of wonder where their first win's going to come from. They're obviously under a new coach and new systems and stuff like that. But yeah, disappointing for them. But hopefully they can bounce back this week. And you just want to score that. They're up against the Eagles round 3, so at home, their first game at Whitten Oval. So hopefully they can really compete against the Eagles.
That'll be interesting. My thing is that there's flashes of brilliance. I mean, Elaine Gregg. I mean, the headache that she was at Central Districts with you
Hmm.
at Woodville West
Hmm.
Torrance. I mean, she's an absolute. She's the fun part is hearing Abby Holmes and some of the callers call and say how much of a pest Elaine Gregg can be
Mm.
because she's so quick.
Yeah.
She attacks the footy with
Mm.
utter abandon. It's great to see the youngsters are giving a challenge again. I think Katie Lee Weston Turner is going to struggle just because she's going to have to usually face the best defender, which means as a
Hmm.
young 18-year-old, it's going to be difficult. And then Brooke Barwick is pretty much having to kind of go at that halfback flanker to get some positions in. So their youngsters will build. I agree with like
Yeah.
they really did. They stripped this thing down to the studs as
Mm.
much as possible. And
Yeah.
it's gonna be a couple of years of pain. They're gonna not win a lot of games. They're gonna draft high. They're gonna get a lot of superstar talent. And
Mm.
maybe they'll get this core of 6 or 7 that'll build them up over the next few years. But unfortunately, the pain's going to come years like this. And when you
Yeah.
come up against a port team that I think Lauren Arnell has built something really, really good.
Hmm.
Yes, there's a lot of
Yeah.
young talent. It's the same thing. But you bring in a Kirsty Lamb who in her first game against the Doggies kicks the first goal of the game and then kicks two all together. You see,
Mm.
as you said, Molly Brooksby playing really well off out of the back. I think she's looked really, really good.
Hmm.
Piper Windows kind of slowly getting used to AFLW. She'll get there.
Hmm.
She'll get there. And then when you've got the two-headed monster of Ash Saint and Gemma Houghton up forward, it is a
Yeah.
monster day for a good team, let alone a Western Bulldogs team that they're still trying to kind of find their footing, per se. So Port, I mean, this is a win as a Port Adelaide supporter. This is a win you expect. This is a win that you should win well.
Hmm.
I think they looked good. There's some confidence into the group going into round 3, but after that, there's not much really. Honestly, there's not much I really take out of it. Get some positive momentum into your group, get some confidence, and you move on to the next round because this is a doggies team again. They're going to be the whipping stick of the league. I hope they get a win. I worry they
Mm.
don't. I really do. I really worry they don't because I think Daisy Pierce and the Eagles are going to be another tough test for them next round because they've played
Hmm.
pretty well, um,
Hmm.
despite some of the injuries that they've had to deal with some of their youngsters that they drafted this year. So let's move on to what I thought was going to be a cracking game, and the Lions again show why they're just always this resilient team as they go down to Casey Fields. And again, why is it that the Brisbane Lions can go to Casey Fields and get wins?
I don't know. They probably train in a lot of wind up in the north of the country. So, but they were always going to bounce back. Like, as I said in the bit of preview there, that I think Melbourne are in for a bit of a tougher season. I think this might be they haven't missed the finals, have they? I think this might be the first year that they miss finals. Um, they've definitely had some players move on in West, Sheriff. They're the two big ones, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, they're in a new stage of their list. They're starting to get a few age players, and the middle of age players are not really that thick. So they've either got young or they've got veterans. So they'll be up and down, and that's what happens when you have a young list. And Brisbane Lions, obviously we're a bit shell shocked about their loss in round 1 against North, who just came out and dominated them, and they were always going to bounce back. And yeah, I expected the Lions to win and win well. So yeah, a what's that, an 18-point win
Mm-hmm.
down at Casey Fields is not too bad.
Yeah. It always helps when Dakota Davidson kicks 3 goals and plays really, really well. this is the Lions team. I mean, Allie Anderson, absolutely ridiculous what
Oh,
she continues to do. It's
yeah.
absolutely mental. This midfield. You'd
Mm.
think, I think a lot of
Yeah.
people thought when Emily Bates left the Lions, did it take a little bit out? And Allie Anderson went, "That's my spot now." I mean, it's literally kind of
Yeah.
how it kind of went. So it's been great. I'm with you on Melbourne. Like the more I'm seeing them play, the more again, you've got Kate Hoare, you've got Eden Zankic, you've got some of the absolute superstars that you have there, but they got the proverbial lock picked this last year. Libby Birch leaves,
Hmm.
Liza West leaves, Casey Sheriff leaves, Maddie Gay leaves. That's
Hmm.
four
How'd he
of
go?
your
Yeah.
best six of your best
Hmm.
20 of your best 21. I'm trying to do my math in the back of my head here.
Yeah.
How many are on
Hmm.
let's apologize on that. But yeah, I mean that's four really solid players that were part of the depth that is Melbourne, and it's not easy to replace those four. So
Yeah.
they're gonna go through a few growing pains this year. So I don't think you're going off too high a limb here to say Melbourne could potentially miss finals this year, but it'll be fascinating. They're good.
Yeah.
Taylor Harris also going out with her shoulder injury. It doesn't help either because I mean that's
And
another
yeah,
big
and
loss.
don't forget, uh, so Lauren Pierce has got a broken wrist. She's out for 6 weeks.
Yep.
That is just massive for them.
Yep.
Liv Purcell, she had to have her cheekbone. She had surgery over here in Adelaide actually after the last trial game. So, even Amy Mackin with her ACL, like she's, such
Hmm.
a runner. And then they had Jacinta Jose who did her ACL. So their list is starting to get really long with injuries. So, what's that? That's 9. So basically they're nearly down to having to do
Replacement
some
players.
replacement players and stuff like that, which is really upsetting.
Yeah, especially for such a hallowed club that's been at the top for most of its
Hmm.
time in the competition. That, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, sometimes the giants do fall. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
so it happens. So let's jump over it. We will jump out west to see the West Coast Eagles fall a little bit short to the Essendon Bombers as the Bombers get a win 41-35, a 16-point win as the Bombers bounce back. I think their first round was a little bit shocking when Fremantle knocked them
Mm.
off, but they go out west and not a bad bonding period as even with despite not having Bonnie too good, the Bombers get it done.
Yeah, it's another one. I think they were a bit shocked when Clark and Toogood, came from the ground with that aerial collision, and then they got absolutely kicked off the park, and it was like a 10 goal score for Freo. So, you know, um, they were hopefully going to bounce back, but it wouldn't have surprised us if it was closer than 16. But
Mhm.
the Eagles are scoring. That's for me. That's a really a big sign that Days has got stuff rocking there over in the West. And yeah, they, Essendon probably might have thought that they would have actually won by a bit more if they were fully stocked. But, to get the win over there is Natalie Wood will be really happy with that. And yeah, not unexpected. But yeah, the Eagles are certainly improving.
Yeah, definitely. And it's great to see Days have some success in round one and round
Mm,
two. Like I said, again, it's a learning experience for this young group. They're
mm,
gonna learn some things, but having the wise old head of Daisy Pierce at the helm is gonna
mhm.
be fun to watch. I'm super
Yeah,
excited to see her and this group grow together. It's gonna be
yeah.
fun. Again, this is a Bombers team, talent wise. If you look at their list, even
Mm,
despite not having Bonnie too good, they should win this one. It was just the question of could they again. Maddie Prasparkas again being her usual self,
mhm.
fantastic, and then
Yeah.
seeing some additions like Chloe Adams and Lily Rose Williams kicking goals for
Mhm.
Essendon. You're getting contributions from other situations because you're going to need to at this point with no Bonnie too good on the sideline for a bit. So to see that impact by other players, by some youngsters, is good for Essendon again. I'll be fun to see how this both these teams go over the next few rounds because this is
Mhm.
going to be a fun fixture. Both teams, I think. Are Essendon in that finals talk? Probably. Bonnie Too Good brings them down a little bit. I'm a little bit
Mm,
interested to see how they do. And the Eagles, the biggest thing is just move up the ladder. You're probably not going to be a finals team, but show
mhm.
progression under Daisy will be the biggest thing for the Eagles on this one. So,
Yeah, the Dons will be interesting actually because if you line them up against Adelaide, Brisbane, North, Hawthorn, their game in round three against St Kilda will be a real
mhm.
measuring stick about where they're actually at.
Yep, 100% agree with you on that one. Let's jump to the next game as we see Hawthorn, the team that
Mm.
both sides, both the men and the women's, are absolutely in fuego. They are flying as high as a blimp
Mhm.
at this point as they get a big win over Collingwood, 73-26. The Hawks. Hawkball has now infiltrated the women.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, look, as I said before, their ability to move the ball with speed and get it on the outside and go. I think Eliza West has had a massive impact on that because she's such a creative handball type player. And I think she kicked a goal on the weekend, and she's just getting high numbers and yeah, really, really impressive. They'll certainly miss Casey Sheriff. She has been outstanding for them.
Mhm,
Just has brought a lot of composure with ball in hand and always finds a target. So they'll certainly miss her against Adelaide this week. But I think Bates will come back in, and Bodie's causing havoc. And I mean, the biggest one that for me that is the biggest standout is Matia Breed.
mhm,
She's big body midfielder that you can play behind the ball, in front of the ball, and she's just an animal. Like a competitive beast that just seeks the contest, and they're just starting to open those. And then you got Gilroy and Fleming, and they've just slowly but steadily built just an amazing list, and it's
mhm,
just a credit to Keegan Brooksby's the footy manager and list manager down there, so that's Abby Holmes's husband. So he's done a magnificent job, and then picking up Webster as the new coach. You can actually, I think, you can actually see the Brisbane style of football they're playing because he was obviously up as an assistant coach in Brisbane. So I think he's brought a lot of that down to Hawthorn and paying dividends.
mhm. Yeah. Well, and the list that was built, the style that he brought is perfect for it because
Mm-hmm.
it's that run and gun, use space, use speed, use that quick footy. And all of the people that are on their list, it matches them perfectly. That it's, as you said, it's a perfect list. It's a really good list build along with a great system that fits the list build that they built. So it's going to be fun to watch this team again.
Mm.
I think again, Adelaide will kind of maybe bring them back down to earth a little bit because
Mm.
as much as I love this Hawks teams, they're young, they're smaller, they're a little bit younger bodies, they're a little bit smaller bodies, and
Mm-hmm.
Adelaide is a big physical side.
Mm-hmm.
I This is going to be one of those. This is where we see the metal of this Hawthorn team. But
Mm-hmm.
again,
Agreed.
what I feel horrible about in this is that with Collingwood is that I know that they had to sign top up players because they have had so many injury
Yeah.
issues with theirs, plus the
Yeah.
suspension of Tarney
Massive.
Evans after round
Yeah.
one. That I kind of feel like I kind of feel like the Pies are just kind of in survival mode right now until they can get
Mm.
people back on the park. And I think that's the hardest part about early in the season when 11 games in 10 rounds,
Yeah.
you really can't afford to play catch up. And that's the sad part about this Pies team is that talent wise, if you look at the list, like Sab Frederick is playing outstanding. Like she played fantastic in this game. She's doing everything
Mm-hmm.
she possibly can. The problem
Yeah.
is the horses aren't there. Bree Davy, you can tell she's kind of slowly getting back into
Yeah.
it. I mean, Britt Bonici's again magnificent. That she's
Oh, she's
absolutely
been
fantastic.
outstanding. Yeah.
I'm hoping Ruby Slicer can get kind of back to what the game she used to play. You can kind of tell she's still not 100% back to the
Yeah.
style that she's
Yeah.
been wanting to play. And then you can definitely tell, and it's interesting to think about it, but Nell
Yes.
Dalton up front, you can
Yes.
tell she's missing because
Mm-hmm.
they go
100%.
forward and it just loses it
Mm-hmm.
around the half forward flank. They just cannot find a target,
Yeah.
and that really is frustrating when you've got some of the great people like Britt Benici, Bree Davy, Sarah Rowe, um, Jamie Lamb, Jess Allen. I was like trying to think of, because Lambert's over with St. Kilda. I'm like,
Oh, she's
Rain,
St. Kilda.
stop. He was
Yeah.
like I got halfway through it and went, no. So, but that's the thing is like their forward line, unless Sabrina Frederick goes forward, they really don't have a target right now. So I think that's the frustrating part for them. They're trying. I kind of feel bad. And again, also you're going to go through the growing pains of a new coach over there with
Yeah.
Collingwood. So it's just kind of one of those. They ran into a buzzsaw of this Hawthorn team that they're playing really, really well. Again,
Yeah.
I agree with you. Casey Sheriff going down late in that, how much will that impact this team? Because she has been
Mm-hmm.
so fantastic. And
Mm.
the fact that I'll say this with Liza West coming in, the fact that Tilly Lucas Rod is now having to go to the halfback line, how
Yeah.
insane is that?
Oh, but she's been outstanding, hasn't she? Like,
Yep.
like she's just mopping up everything, and her disposal is really of a high quality, and they're just well balanced over all the lines.
Yeah, they're gonna be so much fun to watch. So let's jump
Mhm.
up to the Swinburne Center at Punt Road as the Richmond Tigers get a thrilling win over the GWS Giants, bouncing back after the kind of shock loss to the West Coast Eagles out west, and the Giants kind
Mm.
of doing their typical, they cannot win 2 games in a row.
Yeah. Oh, look, it was an interesting game, wasn't it?
Mhm.
You felt like GWS were kind of on top, and but Richmond somehow managed to scrap a win, and because Richmond have got some injury issues also.
Mhm.
Um, I think there's an article on the AFLW website today about it's nearly time for the list sizes to be extended, and I
I
think
agree.
the injuries, even if they gave them another 2 to 5,
Mhm.
I know it's all about the dollars, but really important. But yeah, you kind of go GWS. They're kind of like a mixed bag. You just never know what you're going to pull out. You know,
Mhm.
because they were obviously outstanding round one, and you would have had them to win this game. I would have thought. But yeah, just can't quite get the chocolates.
Yeah, it's one of those that GWS is one of those teams that I think it just depends on who they match up against. If they match up against
Mm,
a top four side for some weird reason, they go into their shell and just try to survive.
yeah,
When they
yeah,
play the mid-level teams, it really is a Jekyll and Hyde. Sometimes they have great games where you see Elise Parker's brilliance, you see Zarly Goldsworthy take
hmm,
over a game, you see some of their talent that they have, Haneen Zarika having a good game. But this was
mm,
one of those where it was like Richmond kind of held on for like the first bit. It was kind of back and forth footy, and then it seemed like once Caitlin Greiser kicked that first goal, the floodgates opened. It just seemed like Richmond just dominated, just scoring. Zarly Goldsworthy kind of has that settler in the second quarter, but it's just most of the game is just Richmond. When it comes to scoring, Richmond was the one putting it through the scoring posts to get points. Again, Mon Conti being her usual self. Elise Parker had
yeah,
herself another fantastic game. Again, the normals that you expect to have good games had good games, but it's just you can. I don't know what it is about GWS. It's very frustrating because
yeah.
as a as a first club, they just really have not ever stepped up. They've always kind of been this perennial mid-level to lower level team in the competition. And it's
Mm,
frustrating for somebody that wants to see New South Wales footy grow a little bit better
yeah.
because of the fact I want the rivalry between GWS and Sydney to be what it is in the men's. Again, I know
Hmm.
so many more years of footy. I know, coach. I know, but I want to see that competition even. And right now, it's GWS has stagnated, and Sydney has kind of rocketed by them already,
Yeah,
despite being only a third-year club.
yeah, yeah. It's a bit of a mystery, to be honest.
Yeah, well, it's
Quite
and I
sure. I'm
and
not
I
quite sure what you say, because you look at their list, and
yeah.
they've got stars,
Mhm.
and they're all performing okay, but they just, I don't know, they just don't seem to have that real forward connection. I still feel like they really lack a key forward. So most teams, like like if you look, Richmond's got Brennan, Greisler, Dempsey.
Hmm.
Even though she'll come off the wing at times, but they've got scoring power.
Hmm.
Whereas I just don't.
And the
I
crazy
just
part
don't.
about it is that Coruscant, ever since Coruscant retired
Yeah.
last year, and it's like a giant void has never been
Mm-hmm.
filled. I mean, I
Yeah.
think they tried. I think they tried to put Cambridge. They tried to put Cambridge McCormick and Elise O'Dowd, their
Mm-hmm.
two ruck pairs, up forward,
Yeah.
but they're both rucks. They're not really full forwards. So it's like they're kind of they're spot fillers. Zarly Goldsworthy, again, magnificent player. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
she's done everything she can to pull this club that she can, along with Elise Parker. You've got Nicola Barr, you've got Alicia Eva, you've got some really, really good players, but I don't think it's them. It's the depth of the list that's running into issues, is that
Yeah.
they're not getting step ups from the 19th, 20th, and 21st players on the list. You're getting kind of the top, they're
Yeah.
so top heavy, and then they kind of disappear into infinity after about person 9 or 10 on the list. And I think that's what's killing them, is that if they don't get the Zarly Goldsworthy kicking four and having 25, and Elise Parker
Yeah.
getting 35 and a goal, and Nicola Barr getting 8 intercept marks on the defensive side, they're susceptible to being beat by a team that has performance from everybody. And I think that's the frustrating part for me. So,
Yeah, I wish that they'd pull the trigger and put Izzy Huntington down front because, she played all her junior footy as a key forward and,
mhm,
she's playing behind the ball and she's doing a great job. But, at this point they really need a key forward. And, you've got Pepper Randall that can take over that kind of key
fullback.
back role.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, that's probably what I'd like to see. Get build a forward line around Izzy.
Let's go for it. Coach Norrell to take over at GWS. You're happy at Woodville West Torrance. I'm just kidding. So let's jump up to it. Great Barrier Reef Arena in Mackay as the
Oh
Carlton
God.
Blues survive a scare from the Gold Coast
Mm.
Suns and get a 1 point win. A fantastic game. And I gotta say this, despite on the losing side, Charlie Rowbottom, you
Mhm.
star.
Yeah, she's a star. There's no doubt she's absolute bona fide star. But um, gee, the Gold Coast will be reeling 0-2 in a short season. No one wants to be 0-2, especially they're touted as the one of the big improvers, but you know that it's like Hawthorn and St Kilda have probably just rocketed past them. So who have they got this week? Let me have a quick look. Oh, they've got GWS, so over in Manuka Oval. So
Mhm.
yeah, that could go either way. Either they could be zipping three, and that's a not a great start to your season. So they'll be really hungry for this win this week. But so would Carlton because they would be 0-2 if they had dropped that. So it was the same stakes, and yeah, they were just able to claw it out, weren't they?
Yeah, it's one of those where this was a game that I kind of like, what team wants to keep themselves
Mm,
alive
yeah,
to potentially be in the round for finals. For me though, the thing I worry about is Gold Coast did a facelift over the offseason. They switched out 10 players, and I think some of the players that they let go were really glue players. I mean, Ali Drennan, I think going out to West
yeah,
Coast, I think is a huge loss for them, because I know you've got Claudia
yeah,
Whitford. I know you've got Lucy Single. I know you've got Charlie Rowbottom. But after that, where's your depth? Where's your depth going
yeah.
through the midfield? I know you've got Jack DePie and Tara Bohannon up forward, but then what's your depth after that? This is a Gold Coast team. They're a lot like GWS. They're top heavy with really good talent, but
Mm-hmm.
it's after about player 8 is where I start to be concerned for Gold Coast, because of the fact that they did have so many people leave the roster that were glue people that are now
Yeah.
donning other colors. So I'm I was one of those. I saw Gold Coast dropping down the list. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
think they would make finals. I think they're going
Yeah.
to be probably bottom six side,
Yeah.
just because of all of that change. Carlton, they sit in purgatory for me. I think they've got the talent to
Mm-hmm.
go up and potentially fight for finals, but the issue that they're running into is that Can they play three talls with the Moody sisters and Jess Good and still
Yes,
be a winning side? My worry
yes,
is that I think that they're too tall because then they have no pressure when the ball
yeah.
gets to the ground.
Mhm.
Again, is Jess Good and Bree Moody a scary combination when it comes to the ruck full forward? Absolutely. But when
Mm,
as soon as you throw Celine in there, now you've got a third head on the proverbial dragon. I mean, what
mhm.
do you do? Do you throw Celine behind the ball, which I don't know if she's aggressive enough to be a defender. So,
No, they've been throwing Jess Good behind the ball. Celine and Bree chopping out in the ruck, and
mhm,
it is. It's a fine line, isn't it? Like two, some teams choose to go in with one tool,
mhm.
and just let the ball hit the deck and um, really fight it out in contest mode. And yeah, it is a good question, and whether they can keep all three of those players in, we'll find out when selections come out tomorrow.
It'll be interesting again. But the,
Mm,
the Blues did what they needed to do. They get the
mm,
win. They get on the board. They put the 4 points up, and they look to move on the way the season goes. But again, this was one of those. It was back and forth, back and forth. Carlton
mm,
started with the lead. Gold Coast took it back in the
mm,
in the middle part of the game, and Carlton did just enough to get the win. A fantastic game on what I heard is a
mm.
floating pitch up there at Mackay or something. To the Great Barrier Reef Arena is like a floating pitch or something.
Oh, never heard that before. No,
I don't know.
not
I'd
sure.
heard. I thought I heard it somewhere that it was like that the actual pitch is like almost floating. I don't know. I don't know. But whatever.
It's kind of like with Carlton. It's one of those teams that you just can't trust what they're going to bring.
Yep.
Like sometimes, they'll come out and look $1 million, and then other times you'll go, oh, what team's this? And I felt like on the weekend watching that game that um, they had moments, and both teams are quite similar. They had moments, and they
Mhm.
kind of swapped the baton all day about, who's going to put some really good passages of play together. So,
Yep.
yeah, it was probably fitting that it was either a draw or a 1 point win or within a goal.
Well, I think for me, Carlton, GWS, and West Coast are all three teams that I think are in the same purgatory. I think they're
Hmm.
talented, but
Yeah.
I think there's still development that needs to be done.
Hmm.
That I think, and actually Gold Coast too, all four of them, that it's like, I'm
Yeah.
not sure where they're going to go. I mean, they're going to kind of depend on how their season goes, where they level out, because they're all kind of the same. The superstar talent at the top, but it's the
Hmm.
question of the depth of the list will
Yeah.
be fun to watch on
Yeah.
that one. So let's
100%
jump,
agree.
let's jump to Arden Street and talk about game of the round. And I know some people are like, Coach, it's a draw. How can this be game of the round?
Mm.
Because you saw who everybody was anointing as the premiership favorites in North be
Yeah.
pushed all the way and be pushed to a draw in Arden Street by a Cats
Yeah.
team that honestly, I think they are going to take Melbourne's place as one of the top four sides if Melbourne continue to have issues with injury and
Yeah.
lack of form. The Cats are
Hmm.
that team I think that are going to gladly step into that four spot, and they showed why. Absolutely fantastic game of footy.
Look, I love the Geelong list. I mean, the only obvious piece of the puzzle missing is Chloe.
Hmm.
Um, and you get her back, and then they're nearly a full list. So, the likes of Amy McDonald, bit clunky with ball in hand, but finds the footy. Nina Morrison, obviously, I think she's probably one of the most underrated players. Beautiful user of the ball, able to get through traffic. And then, I know she didn't have a hell of a lot of the ball on the weekend, but when she has the ball in hand, Georgie Prasparkas,
Hmm.
wow. Like, I don't know if you watched round one against Melbourne, but she was electric. And, she just brings something to that team that's really, really important. And yeah, I really like Geelong. Um, and, Chloe Shear, I think she's due back in maybe about round 4 or 5. And then I think that'll even galvanise that group even more. Yeah, and I think North will be a bit shocked. that they couldn't put them away because it felt like that they dominated the game, but they just couldn't put them away, and Geelong just kept coming and coming, and obviously with the draw and Michaela Bowen, she's just wonderful to watch. I don't know what you think about her, but um, just an absolute fighter. Like plays way beyond her size because she's
Mhm.
a slight build, but strong around the contest. And yeah, I just think she's magnificent,
Yep.
and I really like the style of play that Geelong are playing.
Yep. I'm 100% with you. They pushed the North team, like I said, they were being crowned queens of
Mm,
the competition after what they
hmm
did to Brisbane.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
said in my preview show, I said this is a Cats team that you don't want to play in round two, coming off a game in hot conditions up in
yeah,
Brisbane, travel back to Melbourne, and
yeah.
playing a Cats team that's got a little bit of confidence despite falling short to the Melbourne Demons. And
hmm
it was almost like a playbook perfect. Again, North, they're very, very good. They're going to
hmm
make finals. They are going to
Yeah.
be. I prelim final. I think is a must for this team. Grand
hmm
final, I think, is definitely a possibility. But this is
Yeah.
a Cats team that, after last year, knocking off the D's, getting to a preliminary final, kind of getting into that club of the final four
hmm
teams, there's a lot of confidence in this group. And as you said, Chloe
I
Shear is
agree.
not on this team, and they
Mm,
almost beat North.
yeah.
Chloe Shear still to come back. As you said, Michaela Bowen with a fantastic snap at the end.
hmm
She's grabbed
hmm
that wing spot by the throat and taken it and
Yeah.
just said, "You are mine."
Yeah.
And the best part is the coach has to go, "Okay, Michaela, that's your spot." She doesn't have to
Mhm.
worry about it. You're getting great defense. Again, the Cats are always so good in defense. Claudia Ganjak, I think, has been magnificent back there.
Oh, I
Meg
love it.
McDonald is
Yeah.
always great back there. And then you're getting you're getting the Zarly
Yeah.
Frisballs, you're getting the impact. Aisling Maloney still playing well. I
hmm
don't think she had her best game in this one, but she
Mm.
looked really good. Jackie
Yeah.
Perry, always solid again. But this was so much fun to watch because the midfield battle, I mean, Georgie Bismarckis, Nina Mori, Zarly Friswell, Michaela Bowen versus Ash Riddell,
hmm
Jazzy Garner, and the laundry list of superstars, Emma Carney potentially coming through.
Yeah.
This was so much fun to watch. And I mean, the
Yeah.
draw was perfect. Neither team was really good enough to win this one. They were both good.
hmm
They just didn't have that X factor winner. So I love that it's a draw. And I know everybody's like, draws are boring, coach. No, I actually love the draws.
hmm
I love the draws only because not only does it make the ladder more interesting, because now you have that oddball 2 points, but this
hmm
shows that you don't just get to win. Like, it's one of the things that,
Yeah.
especially here in the States, we've got to have a winner. We've got to have a loser. No, we don't.
Yeah.
If either team can win it in the regulation, half the points, go fix it.
hmm
Don't just go the participation trophy 4 points here. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Okay. This is great for footy. This is great for the AFLW because these are two really good teams that gave us
hmm
an absolute classic. I know you don't get the song. I get it. Okay. I get it. But this was a perfect result for the way this game turned out because neither team deserved to lose this game.
Yeah.
And neither team really did deserve to win this one because this was such a
hmm
back and forth game. So cannot wait to see these two teams progress. I would still right now say this would be a heck of a grand final if we get this again in the grand
hmm
final. I would not turn it down at all. So let's
hmm
jump over to our SEA park and we are going to, and I know everybody's like, Donnie, what is your thoughts on everything going on with what happened prior to the game? We will discuss that in burning questions. I do not want to
hmm
take away from this game at all because even as the Swans, the Saints were fantastic. The
hmm
conditions in this game were absolutely insane. It was windy, it was rainy, it was windy, it was rainy, it was cold, it was a little bit of everything, and the Saints just kept marching. The Swans, valiant in the effort. You can tell that they definitely were missing their talisman and Chloe Malloy in this game. They
Yeah.
battled
Yeah.
back in the fourth. I think they battled back in the fourth quarter, and I think they kind of scared St. Kilda a little bit after that second goal, where they kind of drug it back to one more goal, and this thing gets interesting. And then the Saints
Mm.
put it away. Jesse Wardlaw again with an absolute dagger late from like 52, rolling it home. the Saints team are proving why there are a lot of people's talk of being one of the teams that will step into the finals who fell just
Yeah.
short last year.
Yeah, look, they've certainly retained their young talent in like T. Smith, Molly McDonald,
Mhm.
like Serene Watson, who came down from Gold Coast, and Darcy Guttridge for me is just about to take her next step.
Mhm.
And then they've got some old heads around them, Jamie Lambert, um, Xenos, Hannah Priest, and they're all performing really well as a team. And it seems like, is it the third year um, of old mate being the coach?
Nick Del Santo,
Del Santo, that's
I
him.
believe so. Yep.
Third year. So that's, your third and fourth year. Normally the years that the team systems all start to come into play. And yeah, I think, as long as they can keep everyone fit and on the park, and they'll hopefully feature in finals.
And
I
I
think
want
they
to do
deserve it.
I will be shocked if they don't make it. I think they've
Mm,
played really, really well. Again, you start off 2-0, you start off at the top of the ladder. They
mm,
look fantastic. But
mm,
I want to do a special shout out only because A, she's a friend of the podcast, and B, because she had a monster game despite being on the losing side. And that is Brianna Tarrant.
mm-hmm.
15 intercept possessions in this. This game could have super gone out of hand if it weren't for her
Yeah.
magnificent performance in the back line. Her and Ella Heads in that defense were under siege the entire game, it seemed like, at least the first three quarters for sure. And she was just so stout and in crap conditions to intercept the ball the way she did and to kind of
Mm-hmm.
dispel some of the going forwards of the St. Kilda Saints. I have to give my plaudits to her, not only because she's one of my favorite players on the Swans teams, but again, friend of the
Mm-hmm.
podcast. But she was magnificent in this game, despite the all everything that kind of happened in this one. But Saints so good. Swans again, the way the game was, it's a little bit, the final score is a little bit closer than the game was for most of it, but the Swans
Yeah.
bounced back. You saw Sophia Hurley step up and kick a goal in this game. I think you're gonna start. I think Monham. This is where, with the
Oh.
loss of Chloe Malloy, I think Monham could have herself a breakout.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see Ali Morfitt lift a little, and this is just me personally. She's kind of been there, but she hasn't done what she did last year again. Maybe it's high expectations because of how well she did last year, but I think she's slowly building into this season. I'm hoping that she lifts just a littlest bit because if you can get her dominance through the ruck, I think she's gonna have a fantastic season. It is just very tough to see her kind of not have as much of an impact as she had like last year. So let's jump to it. Last game of the round, way out to West Australia and Fremantle Oval, and the Crows doing Crow things, smashing the Dockers by 33-39-6. And as per usual, the two names you can't not talk about when you talk about the Crows, Ebony
Mm-hmm.
Marinoff and Anne Hatchard.
Oh, it was a shock. I don't know about how you felt about it, Donny, but it was kind of like Freo come off of playing no sloucher and playing the Dons
Mhm.
and give them a 10 goal hiding, and then they're on the they don't score. They only kick 6 points, which is a real concern. Um, yeah, and really, I think the Crows let them off a little too. They probably should have beaten them by a little bit more, but it was more about the systematic way that the Crows just dismantled Fremantle. They just couldn't beat them in any phase of the game. Like they never looked like they were coming at them at all. They just, yeah, it was pure domination, wasn't it?
Mhm.
And yeah, it certainly showed that the Crows are going to be up there again.
Yeah, I mean the Crows are just so good. I think I look at it like this is that the loss of Ann Stannett and Kiera Bowers really brings down the Dockers list a little. Again, this Crows team is super good. When they turn it on and they want to be their absolute best, there are very few
Mm,
teams in the competition that can beat them. Aisling
yeah,
McCarthy is fantastic through Fremantle's midfield, but if she had Kiera Bowers and Ann Stannett with her, along with the list that they've built,
yeah.
I think Fremantle's in this a little bit more. But the only other issue that I have with Fremantle is if you can take Anya Tighe away from them,
Yeah.
you cut the proverbial head off the snake of Fremantle. And I
Yeah.
think that's the thing. Essendon didn't have a defender that could stop Anya Tig. And that opened up the game and
Hmm.
let some of her friends out. And but what did Adelaide do? They took Anya Tig out of this game, and you saw the results. And Fremantle was literally, they were a headless chook. They could not find their way. And I think that's the part that was frustrating. Again, our Crows are just so good. Like they just Anne Hatchard, Ebony Murnoff. Very few teams have a two-headed monster like those two. And when they go forward, Anne kicks two, Ebony kicks one. Very few teams have one midfield goal, let alone three from your
Yeah.
superstars. So I, I don't look at the Dockers and say I'm disappointed with them again. Is
Mm.
this the best Dockers team? No. Again, Kara Bowers and Nate Stannard are not on this roster. They're still kind of getting into it. Did they does it stink that you get another game in the round where there's no goals kicked by a single team? Absolutely. But that just shows you how good defensively the Crows are. They are really,
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah. Look, it's there's a couple of layers of it from my perspective is
Sure.
a good defense and a lack of connection from mid to forward. And, I think where AFLW is at the moment, you really need to have one, if not two, real key pillars, at both ends of the ground.
Mhm.
Um, you need scoring threats from your midfield, from your wings. Um, I look at what the Crows have done, and they're all their kids. So Newman, Sarah Goodwin, um, who else? Keely Custerman.
Mhm.
Um, the way that they have been indoctrinated into the style of play and how they go, that's the blueprint of how you actually build depth. And, so yeah, Marinoff, Hatchard, Randall, um, you know, Ponta, Jones, Thompson, they're all like, been around a while and they're solid top list players. But then, you know, Munyard, the names just keep coming.
Mhm.
Um, and the fact that they've got the luxury of Bedell and Zoe Prowse behind the ball, standing right next to Sarah Allen, that like you can put the best type of forward combo, they have to get through those three.
Mhm. Yep.
It's a pretty good list.
Yeah. Well, and also for the longest time when he had the state-based draft, the best of the best were from South Australia were going into this list. So we'll
Hmm.
see again. The fruits of that particular system are definitely there to show. And now with the draft changing to national,
Hmm.
we'll see, can the Crows continue to draft well as it goes forward. Again, so good. Again, Fremantle, they're going to be an interesting one. Again, they they did everything that they possibly could. Again, such a good Crows team on that one. So let's jump to it. That is all 9 games down. We'll jump to the burning questions section, and I'm interested on this because we've waxed lyrical about both of these teams. I know it's early, but how shocking is it for you, Coach, to see St. Kilda and Hawthorn at the top of the AFLW ladder?
Um, no surprise really. Um, I think St Kilda, even last year, they were kind of around the mark. They dropped some games, by really close margins. So, at some point that's always going to turn, and no surprises there. We'll see how that goes. At the moment they've played Sydney, who are good, and the Suns, who are good, but they haven't come up against the big three yet. I normally always, and usually it would be the big four
Mhm.
in Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide, um, and
North.
and North. Um, so I'll hold my opinion on St Kilda until they play one of the big three, because I think the big three this year are, for me, are Lions, Crows, North.
Mhm.
Hawthorn, on the other hand, I think Hawthorn are in the best position to actually maybe take the position of Melbourne in the Big Four. And I think they are the most exciting team from the ones outside of the top three.
Yeah, Hawthorn and Geelong, I think, are the two teams vying for that spot. My only
Hmm.
worry with Hawthorn is that they are young. A lot of their superstar talents are younger
Hmm.
bodies. You have the Jess Flemings, you have the Michaela Williamsons, the physicality of the Adelaide Crows this week, plus the fact
Hmm.
Casey Sheriff is injured. We'll
Mm.
see. This will really see
Hmm.
how where Hawthorn stack up. If they're competitive,
Yeah.
then I agree with you. They're that 6-5-4 seed come finals time for sure. Absolutely for sure. If
Yeah.
the Crows pants them, then we'll
Yeah.
have to see how does this young squad then respond from there. Because again, the Crows are an animal that few teams the first time you play them want to have it. And this is going to be, like I said, this is going to be a titanic matchup. I cannot wait for this one. And my favorite part about it as an American is this game is at 10:05 on a
Hmm.
Saturday night. I can pull up the popcorn. The only part that irks me off is it's at the same time as Melbourne, North Melbourne, same exact time. Ugh.
Yeah, I think North Melbourne will have Melbourne's measure. And yeah, I like just looking at the Hawthorn list, there's still some old heads in there as
Mhm.
well.
Yep, there
You know,
is.
you got um Ashmore, Lucas Rod,
Mhm.
Bates is an old head. She'll come back in for sure. And Eliza West,
They will need her if they don't come back in and the loss of Casey Sheriff. That's makes it a little tougher.
yeah,
If they
that's
get
tough.
Bates back, I'm a little less leery. But no Bates and then Sheriff going out makes me a little concerned. And again,
Yeah.
you could chuck Tilly Lucas Rod. The only issue you run into is that can she handle the big bodies that is Ebony Marinoff and
Hmm.
Ann Hatchard will be the question on that one. So we'll discuss that a little bit later. Let's jump to my next
Hmm.
question. There have been a
Hmm.
few big injuries over these first couple of rounds
Yeah.
that have kind of again the league has to deal with this unfortunately.
Yeah.
Is there an injury that you see that's going to impact their team the most?
Well, you can't go past Chloe Malloy. I mean, I think that's just a given. Um, she's obviously, their most electric forward, but she rolls through the mid and she's so creative, and so yeah, that one's a big one. Um, Adelaide are pretty clean. They've got a pretty clean sheet, to be honest. They've got Najwa Allen and Abby Ballard's playing her first scrimmage on the weekend, so she'll be back in the fray. Brisbane are pretty clean. Big one is Abby McKay for Carlton.
Mhm.
I think she'll play, but she's obviously got turf toe, which can be a really
Mhm.
debilitating injury and actually prevent, because she has been absolutely electric for
Mhm.
Carlton.
I agree.
I have really enjoyed how much she has actually jumped. Um, yeah, obviously Bonnie Too Good. Will we see her again? They're saying no, but you never know.
And I
Um,
think Janelle Cuthbertson at Port.
oh, that was the one.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think
Janelle.
that was the one after Chloe Malloy that happened this round. Same thing, ACL. But
Yeah,
you couldn't
sad.
really tell in this game. But
Yeah.
she's been so
Oh,
good for Port Adelaide
brilliant.
over those first two rounds. So I that is going to be a hit to that back line because their
Brilliant.
back line
Yeah.
was young and she's their captain and she's their
Yeah.
experience. She's a great intercept defender. But when she
Hmm.
went down and I heard eventually that she ACL, I went, oh
Yeah.
man, that hurts. That hurts big time for that Port defense because she was
Yeah.
their stabilizer. She was the person that kind of held them together.
Yeah.
So again, I think Chloe for the impact overall on the team, Chloe Malloy, but I think
Hmm.
sneakily, I think Janelle Cuthbertson could be quite the loss for the poor defense because
Absolutely.
they're so young back there. They needed
Hmm.
that old head to kind of maneuver them around. And unfortunately,
Yeah.
she goes down. And it stinks for her because she's had to deal with so much crap. She's been so many injuries. And I think she had that facial injury when she was with
Yeah.
Fremantle, and she's dealt with several
Yeah.
injuries. You just want her to have a healthy season, a healthy body to get through the year. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, this happens in the second game of the year, which is absolutely disgusting. But
Mm.
unfortunately, that's the way it goes sometimes in female footy,
It
is
is.
that it happens. So we've kind of touched on it, and I said we'll talk about it. Is the controversy over the Chloe Malloy reporting of her ACL injury slash knee soreness, whatever you want to call
Hmm.
it there. And I'm going to go to you, coach. And we kind of discussed this previously, and I'm going to have my say on this because I've been very, very blunt on my response to how this thing has been
Hmm.
talked about, especially on certain sections of the footy media. As a
Hmm.
coach, your thoughts? Was there a controversy on the reporting of Chloe Malloy on her holding the information from her team before the St. Kilda game?
Look, I just think it's a bit of hoo ha, to be honest. You know, it's probably devastating for her and the coach. Prep for a game when she found out. That's all internal stuff in the walls, and I just think they're it's a bit of puff and wind about something that it's really her injury to tell, and is there a um, some kind of responsibility to advise people? I think that's up to the club and the player, and as we know, media outlets and stuff can be relentless in their if they'll sniff something on the sidelines, it's not quite right. That they'll, they all have contacts everywhere. So I don't think it was a total secret. I think probably everyone had a fair idea, maybe. But it's not unlike the Zach Butters one that's going on at the moment with his ribs. I think he probably did that the week before, and they just didn't want to announce it because it might be strategy within the game. So, this type of stuff happens all the time. I just think it gets blown out of proportion from my perspective.
Yeah, I'm completely with you on this. I think it was the reason that it's such a big freaking deal is because it's Chloe Malloy, one of the
Mm,
faces of the
mm,
league in Sydney.
mhm,
I get it, okay. And as I said off mic, and I'm going to bring it here again. Maybe this is a little bit of me. Grab my soapbox, put it underneath me. I'm
mhm.
very, very annoyed when the media feel that they deserve something. Because my favorite part is I've seen articles like it's a travesty what they did. They should have let everybody know. Da 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 da. Okay, here, let me tell you something from somebody this happens all the time. Okay, the
Mhm,
coaches don't actually owe the media anything. Okay. I understand you're covering the game. I get it. You want sound bites. They don't have to provide you with that. Then I go to the fans. Well, they're like, well, the fans need to know. Why do they need to know? Why? Please
mhm,
tell me because I don't see anywhere. If you show me your ticket, show me the fan's ticket. Does it say guaranteed superstar will play on the game? No, you don't see it on that
mhm,
ticket.
mhm,
Stop telling me something that's just not true. I get it. You want to get the exclusive. You want to talk about it. This was a
mhm,
giant nothing burger that the media made a big freaking deal over. There are a lot of media
mhm,
people that I think need to understand. We get that you have to do a job, but
mm,
you are not guaranteed anything. You are not supposed to just get
mm,
something because you flash a media pass. You don't.
mhm,
Okay. It is very, very frustrating. I agree with what Chloe did purely on one thing. Women are emotional. And I'm not saying that as a jerk man. I'm saying that because I know
mhm,
women. I've been around women for over 30 years. They can be emotional. It doesn't make sense for Chloe Malloy to walk into her teammates an hour before the game and go, "Hey, everybody, I've torn my ACL. I'm done
mhm,
for the year." Because the linchpin that she is for that team, that is going to devastate the team, and it was already a difficult enough on the road going to be in crap weather, and then you
Mm,
throw in Chloe's going to tell you that she's done for the season, not exactly
mhm,
a recipe for success. I
mhm,
100% agree with how Chloe handled this. She wanted her teammates to be able to focus on the game, not on, holy crap, Chloe Malloy is no longer going to play with us the rest of the season.
mhm,
I completely and utterly 100% agree with how Chloe and the Swans handled it. If you have an issue, think about it. Is it because you wanted a scoop? Or is it because you feel that you're entitled to know something? Because if
mm,
that's true, that's on you. That's not on the club or Chloe Malloy
mm.
to be able to tell you what you're allowed or supposed to have. That's the frustrating part for me personally.
Yeah.
I send out my thoughts, a speedy recovery to Janelle Cuthbertson and Chloe Malloy. I know the
Mm,
ACL is an absolutely devastating injury. It
mhm,
throws you off completely. I've sent messages to both wishing them a speedy recovery because those two are absolutely magnificent players, and you never want to see anybody go down with that
mm.
injury, and you just want
No.
them to recover as quickly as possible. They are pillars of the game for
Mm.
sure. So take my soapbox, put it back into the corner. Thank you for that. So I just I get passionate about that stuff because it's just very, very frustrating when I hear people talking like they deserve something. And I think that was the part that was hard for me. So let's jump to it. My part of the podcast where I take over just the tiniest bit. We go to team of the week before we hop on to tips. Power rankings will start after round 4. So for those of you that are looking for coaches power rankings, I want to be sure we get a little bit of a form list before we jump to power rankings. So team of the week, starting on the fullback line, we see Gold Coast Daisy Darcy and Sydney's Brianna Tarrant. Yes, a little bit of a homer pick, but 15 intercept possessions. I got to give Brianna a jump there. Onto the halfback line, we see Essendon's Maddie Gay, Hawthorne's Tilly Lucas Rod, and North Melbourne's Emma Carney on the halfback line. Out on the wings, we see Michaela Bowen, yes, Michaela Bowen of the Geelong Cats, and Sydney's Sophia Hurley. In the guts, we have Norris Ash Riddell and Adelaide's Anne Hatchard and Ebony Marinoff. At the ruck, Sabrina Frederick of the Collingwood Magpies. At the half forward line, we see Richmond's Sarah Hoskins, Hawthorne's Eileen Gilroy, and Port Adelaide's Julia Teakle. At the full forward line, we got Dax, Brisbane's Dakota Davidson, and Hawthorne's Anya round out the full forward line. On the bench, we see Melbourne's Sinead Goldrick on the defensive line. In the midfield, Christy Lamb of the Port Adelaide Power. At the ruck, we see Bree Moody of the Carlton Blues. At the forward, GWS's Zarly Goldsworthy, and the utility is GWS's Elise Parker. So I know a lot of names. Really quickly, Coach, your thoughts on the team of the week?
Beautiful. Couple of little surprises in there, but not too bad.
Okay. Do I want to ask who the surprises are?
No.
I always have a little bit of fun with this. It was a lot of fun with that one. So it was a good round. It was a good round of footy. So especially, I'm loving
Was.
the impact of the Irish players this year. It's been fantastic seeing Sarah Rowe, Eileen Gilroy,
Hmm.
Anya McDonald. Oh, so many of the Irish players playing really well. So it's been fantastic
Yeah.
for the competition. I think
Kind of feels like they're taking over.
32 the last time. I think the last time I talked
Unreal.
with Mark Curran, who's one of who helps some of them get over there. He says 32, I believe, this year, and they said that talking with some of them that there's a lot of young girls over in Ireland now that are literally they're watching AFLW and
Yeah.
they're playing Gaelic to get ready for AFLW. So
Yeah.
the
Oh,
the
good.
the the talent that's going to come into this competition over the next 5 years, I think is going to be absolutely ridiculous. And I
Yeah.
think this competition is only going to get better and better as the next few years go on. So we jump to it. I know
Agreed.
we are early in the week. I know that the injury lists have come out, but here we go. Tipping. We must tip round 3, the last of the regular rounds after this before we get 3 rounds of fun of potentially multiple games. So Thursday night footy sees the Western Bulldogs host the West Coast Eagles. Who do you like in this one, Coach?
I am going to. Oh, You got to go West Coast, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Dogs get closer this week.
I'm with you. Eagles on this one. Dog, I think doggies are competitive. The flight over
Hmm.
sometimes can throw the Western
Yeah.
Australian teams a little bit. So I think it's going to balance everything out. But I just think
Hmm.
Eagles a little too much experienced talent in this one. So Friday night
Hmm.
footy sees a cracking game as the Brisbane Lions take on the Collingwood Magpies at Brighton Homes Arena. The Lions are licking their chops as a weakened Magpies come up to
Yeah.
Queensland.
Lions all the way.
All right, I got the Lions on this one as well. An interesting one at Coffs International Stadium up in Coffs Harbor as the Richmond Tigers come up to play the Sydney Swans. Who do you like in this one?
I think Sydney will win this one.
I'm gonna tip Richmond only because I this
Take
is
that
what
Guernsey down behind you.
No, 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 no. I have a system here, coach. I've done this a lot.
Hmm.
Is that in a
Hmm.
game that I think is close, I will tip against them because then it's a no lose situation for me.
Hmm.
If
Hmm.
Sydney lose, I get the tip right. If
Yep.
Sydney win, I get to celebrate my team winning. So the only reason I'm going to tip Sydney is Richmond is because it sounds like Elise Sharon is back from her quad injury. You've got Mon Conti in there. How does that balance out again with Laura Gardner? Like I said, this
Hmm.
is one of those Ali Morfitt needs to have her breakout game in this one because
Yep.
no offense to no offense to Poppy and to Gab Seymour, but this is a game Ali should dominate. And if she dominates,
She
that
should.
brings Sydney into the game and
Yep.
maybe can relieve some pressure from going forward because Ali because Ali Brennan is going to be a monster up for it, and Caitlin Greiser could be monsters up forward for that defensive
Yeah.
line if they're getting constant service. So, gonna
Yeah.
tip
If they're getting fed.
Richmond.
Yep.
I think Sydney's in it. I don't think they're too far out of it. I just think this is going to be a cracking game up at Coffs Harbor,
Hmm.
which is going to be fantastic for that community to get a very good game of footy in front of them. So a fun one down at Icon Park in Melbourne as the Carlton Blues host the Geelong Cats. Took the Cats in this one. Cats just too good.
Cats
Kim
for me.
Carlton a little too
Hmm.
inconsistent for me. Cats on this one.
Hmm.
This will be a fun one. Alberton Oval as Port Adelaide host the Dockers. Dockers need a bounce back game. Port Adelaide first game without Janelle Cuthbertson. Who do you like in this one?
I actually think Port might beat Freo. I think they'll make Alberton very much their place to win as many games as they can, and I think they're in some good form.
Plain and simply, Anya Tig. That's the make or
Yeah.
break. That's the make or break it for this. If Tig gets off the chain, Dockers win. If
Yeah.
Port can at least neutralize her, or at least keep her from being a 2 to 3 goal scorer, then Port's in it with a shot. I'm gonna tip Port at home. I think that Fremantle coming off a little bit of a smashing from Adelaide could be licking their wounds a little bit.
Yeah.
Adelaide kind of showed if you can cut Tig off the game, I think
Hmm.
you give Lauren Arnell a week to be able to do this. I think she can.
Hmm.
I think the midfield, the depth of the midfield with your
Hmm.
little Ripper and Sinead Goody, I think could cause the Dockers some issues. I
Yeah.
agree. I'm going to tip Port in this one
Hmm.
with you on that one. The best one of all, Unley Oval in Adelaide. I got to ask, Coach, are you
Hmm.
going to be able to make it to this game?
Yeah, I'll be at that game. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
enjoy. Please enjoy for me.
Hmm.
Adelaide Crows, Hawthorn Hawks, 1v3 on the ladder currently. Who do you like in this one?
I got to stick with the Crows.
Tipping the Crows, big bodies,
Hmm.
much more experience, well, a little bit more experience overall as a list. Crows in this
Yeah.
one. I think the Hawks give them a run though. The Hawks give them a run.
Yeah, I agree. It'll
I
be a
think the
cracker.
first 3 quarters will be competitive. It could get
Hmm.
ugly in the fourth if the Crows can use their physicality. Is what I'll
Yeah.
say on that one. So at the same time, back over at Casey Fields in Melbourne, the Melbourne Demons host the North Melbourne Roos. I like North Melbourne in this one. I think
Me too.
they're gonna be a little turbed getting a
Yeah.
draw against Geelong, and I think Melbourne may be the team they take it
Hmm.
out on. And
I agree.
Libby Birch's first return to her old side will be
Mm,
fun.
spicy.
I don't think so. I think it'll be really respectful. Libby Birch put a really good career at Melbourne, and I think she'll be welcomed with open arms. It'll just be once the whistle goes, there'll be some competitiveness, but I think that'll be a fun
Hmm.
one. An interesting one at Windy Hill as the Bombers take on the Saints. Can the Saints keep the undefeated streak going, or can the Dons
Oh,
end the zero in the loss column?
great call. You know what? I'm actually going to back the Dons. Like my first instinct was Saints because there's a bit of hoo ha about them, but I'm going to go with the Dons.
I'm with you on this one. I like the Saints. The issue will be like it's kind of like Anya Tig with Fremantle. Jesse
Mm,
Wardlow will be, I think, will be the
mm,
make or breaker for this. If she can
hmm
get off the chain, if she can do well, she can cause Essendon a ton of headaches. Maddie Persmark is a little bit bigger body, so can the smaller
mm,
bodies of the Saints midfield deal with her, because she's going to be an absolute
mm,
nightmare if she gets it. The ruck battle will be interesting with the Wales sister versus uh, Renee Karras will be interesting. I like the Dons in this one. I think the Dons
hmm
can they
Me too.
sneaky St. Kilda coming off a game in interesting conditions should be fun.
Hmm
The only thing that bugs me a little bit with Essendon is the travel from Western Australia back. Will be, can they get their legs underneath them quickly? So that'll be
They'll be
fun.
okay because they came back,
Yeah.
Monday. It's a good break.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Yeah,
And last
I
but
think
not
that'll be
least, the
fun.
fun one at Manuka Oval, as we see the two of the purgatory teams for me, and that's
Mm,
GWS
mm,
v
mm.
Gold Coast. Home team get the win, or just Gold Coast go on their own and steal 4 points?
I think Gold Coast will be 0-3 after this game. I think GWS will win.
This one's tough. This one's tough. I think I'm actually going to go Gold Coast myself. I think
Hmm
Charlie Rowbottom's playing well. Elise Parker is going to have to deal with multiple ones where I'm not sure if she's got the assistance around her
hmm
like like Charlie does over at Gold Coast. So I'm going to tip the Suns in this one. I know Manuka Oval
Maybe.
sometimes can be one of those that GWS likes to play at, but I like the Suns in this one. So that is it. That is all 9 games tipped. We have got to it. Round three starts just a little over 48 hours, just a little over 48 hours from when we are recording this. So much fun. As per usual, Coach Smith, it is magnificent to talk with you. It's always so much fun hearing you talk footy. So much fun. Just real quickly checking in. How is the not off season, since I know that you are constantly in work with now that you are full time at the club? How are things going with Woodville West Torrens, and how excited are you for the off season as you start to put together a list to maybe make finals next year?
Yes, working really hard in the 15s and 17 space. Hopefully, unlock our, missing pieces of our list. So pretty good. And we've signed 40 players. Obviously we've got the new salary cap coming in this year. So that's really exciting that we've retained majority of our list and they're all signed and locked away, which is great. And yeah, we'll start pre-season on the 2nd of November. So that'll be here, not long after the 15s and 17s finish. And then we'll pad out the list with the talented kids coming through. And yeah, no, it's a no off season here.
Well, I am looking forward to it. Like I said, I had the pleasure of talking with one of your ripping midfielders, Poppy
Mm.
Waterford. She was
Mhm.
absolutely magnificent to talk with. So I wish you nothing but the best, Coach. I really want to see that Woodville West Torrance Eagles make finals next
Mm.
year. I think it would be magnificent. I think you're building
Mhm.
something fantastic at
Mhm.
Woodville West Torrance. Cannot wait. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for another episode of Donnie's Disposals. We'll be back with more footy coverage very, very soon.